Why is trust so important to financial transactions? We've mentioned the fact that Bitcoin allows people to transact online directly with people they don't trust already, but let's take a moment to discuss this a little more. Financial transactions have always relied upon both parties being able to trust that the transaction would occur as expected. When making a transaction in person, with cash or by bartering, both parties can do their own diligence on whether the transaction will be reliable. For example, if I'm trading my shirt for your shirt, it would be very clear to both of us that the shirts actually exist and we are in fact exchanging them. However, as payment methods have evolved and people have started transacting over greater distances, the prospect of trusting the other party has played a larger and larger role. What generally happens is that instead of transacting directly with the other party, the transaction occurs through a central intermediary, like a bank. Banks and similar institutions step in to alleviate trust concerns by providing both parties with some assurance that the transaction is legitimate and that the funds get from person to person as planned. For decades now, innovations in technology have not found a way to solve this trust issue, and thus online payments have never really evolved from offline payment platforms. While the internet has vastly improved the speed and convenience of interactions, it has generally lacked trustworthiness. For non-financial transactions, the trade-off of decreased trustworthiness for increased utility has generally been welcomed. Let's take a look at phone calls, for example. Mobile phones and internet-based calling have made it much easier for people to interact with each other around the world. Rather than needing to be tethered to a wall, people can make calls while on the go and across greater distances than ever before. However, mobile and internet-based calls are far less reliable than traditional landlines. Calls are often dropped, fail to connect, or have poor quality. However, their advantages make them more useful to people, so they've become more popular in spite of their lower degree of reliability. Let's compare that to a financial transaction. If I call you and the call drops, it's not that big a deal because I can just call you right back. Whereas if I was sending you money and that money never made it to you, that would be a really big deal. Imagine if you're going to send someone $1 million. You're probably going to want as much of a guarantee as possible that the transfer will be successful. That's where banks and other central intermediaries step in. Normally, when sending money over the internet, we will work with the bank to perform the transaction, and the bank will charge fees to ensure against payments not going through or one of the parties being unreliable. Bitcoin finally allows us to make reliable and secure transactions over the internet without relying on banks, despite the fact that the internet and those who use it can be untrustworthy.